Welcome to this episode of YouTube where we're making progress, and what that means is the introduction is a transitional period where it takes a little while for pups to get used to especially the size of the adult wolves that they're joining. Axel's doing quite well. He's very relaxed. He is on top of the greeting rod here, kind of watching things. He is usually involved in activity. Sometimes gets a little intimidated when there's a chase or too much focus on him, but he's doing quite well and very relaxed. Biggest problem for Axel right now is that his winter coat's coming in and he's picking up burrs in the enclosure, so we got to pull those burrs off of him. We're going to get a group of Vermilion students here to pull the plants that have the burrs, but he's doing quite well, and like I said, he is very easily motivated to take food from the adult wolves. In other words, he has no problems, no intimidation coming up to Bolts here. Bolts is chewing on, not sure what it is. I think it's a beaver foot, but I'm not really sure. Grayson, on the other hand, a little bit more timid. So you can see Grayson here came over to wrestle, and you can see his body's kind of a little lower, a little crouched. Tuck tail, fear response, still when there's too much going on, but we're working on that. It's a process that daily occurs for us in wolf care as we go in and we allow him to sit on a lap and we try to kind of coax his tail up a little bit. We don't want to reinforce that negativity. You can see there Denali, big wolf, little scary, tuck tail, run away. Axel, no intimidation. As a matter of fact, Axel's actually taking a little bit of advantage of Grayson because he certainly has that opportunity, but it's getting better every day. Like I said, we work on trying to give Grayson safety nets. We don't want to reinforce his negativity, but we certainly want to give him an opportunity to get away. And this is why it's a little intimidating, Denali with his big paw on the top of their head. So the pups still obviously stay together. One of the reasons why we do a pair of pups is they reinforce each other, and they certainly have a lot of play bouts together, and one pup that's a little bit more anxious can get courage from another pup, and there's Grayson just greeting Denali. We also built him a little bit of a resting spot out of birch logs and sawdust. Unfortunately, Aiden took it over, so we have to remember which is the pup here. But as you can see here, Aiden's comfortably resting, allowing Grayson, that's Axel, to come in. And they had cached a few things, and you can see Aiden doing a very good job as a dominant pack leader, rolling over for the pups. Here's Grayson coming up with a little more intimidation, licking the nose and showing submission, not fear, showing submission towards Aiden. And so because there's a cache here, I have to be a little bit cautious, but again, that low tail is just a submissive tail. It's not a tuck tail. So Grayson has a lot of interactions with Aiden that are not stressed. They're just submissive. But now that Axel gets him into a little bit of a grind and starts growling and starts wrestling, that's a little bit too much. So I go back in time to when Aiden and Denali were pups, and it's interesting to watch. This is Shadow, the dominant male at this time, and there's Denali kind of right in his face. There's Shadow rolling over just like Aiden does, and Denali kind of climbing all over him, stepping on him. And here comes Aiden. And Aiden, tail low, trying to greet. Tail goes tucked, and shows submission. So this isn't the first time we've had a pup with a little bit of anxiety. Find it interesting that it was the pack leader who showed those behaviors. So don't feel too sorry for Grayson. Like I say, we're working with him, but we also want to remind people that being cautious is not necessarily a negative thing. So that tuck tail of fear and caution, certainly we don't want him to display that all the time, but when it's appropriate, he shows that he has some understanding of threat displays, and that's probably the best thing for a pack leader to have. So like I said, here is Axel on the left, tail wag, trying to get involved. Grayson comes over very cautiously, puts a foot up. This one's a little bit more timid because Bolts was circling around and Bolts was involved, and so that gets to be a little overwhelming for Grayson to have all three of them at one time. But you can see here some very, very good social greetings. And again, it's a replay of Denali and Aiden when they were pups. Denali kind of in your face, all over the place. Grayson, a lot like Aiden, cautious, intimidated by things. And especially, like I say, when you've got all three adult males here, trying to interact. So even Axel gets a little timid when all three males come over. So that's something that we see. And Bolts does a little bit of a grab bite. So we need to obviously watch those things and make sure that they're not escalating. And Aiden's going to try to do a chin rest on Axel, and they're actually working fairly hard, especially this week, really trying to put some limits on Axel, because he does that. He just stands on top of them. He bites tails. He's in their face, and we really are starting to see them put some limits on Axel, because there is a need for all of these adult wolves to show some dominance over this pup so that he doesn't continue to kind of expand his rank any higher than he would in a normal situation. So by having a pup and letting him get away with some things, sometimes you can lead to some really obnoxious yearling behaviors before they're ready to be in the rank order. So this is Axel on the ground. He's face to face with Bolts trying to steal something from him, and Grayson comes over and takes advantage of Axel. So this behavior of taking advantage of other members who are in a more subordinate or compromised position is not just about dominance. Lower ranking wolves see that as an opportunity as well. So here's Axel putting his foot up against Bolts and trying to steal something from Bolts, and he's very tenacious. There's no doubt that Axel is bold when it comes to encounters. He certainly doesn't back off, and Bolts is trying to give him a little bit of direct eye contact. There's a little bit of vocalization going on there from Bolts, and that's not stopping Axel at all. So this is a little disconcerting for Bolts, because theoretically wolves are supposed to have a food possession, and when you growl, that's supposed to mean that you're guarding it and possessing it, and he clearly possesses it. It's in his mouth, but Axel hasn't quite figured out that social rule yet, so he continues to be a pup, continues to employ whatever technique he can to be able to get it, and Grayson continues to use that as an opportunity to get a little bit of rank order up on his brother Axel. So these are the kind of things that are going on. Finally, Bolts, who is low ranking to begin with, just gets disgusted and just leaves. That's not an uncommon thing. So here's Axel back again, putting a paw on Aiden, again, trying to get Aiden's food. Aiden's not as willing to give it up to the pups. So there are times when Aiden lets the pups feed, and there are times when he doesn't. And when it comes to close possessions like that, Aiden's definitely making sure that he can guard his possession. So a lot of greeting. Certainly we're still seeing them working it out. Like I say, this is Axel doing a grab bite on Aiden and grabbing the tail, and then Denali comes in for a sniff and gets a little bit more invasive. So we use a lot of distractions, a lot of bonus food going on out there. So Denali is hopping rock to rock, picking up some extra kibble. One of the things about the kibble is it kind of distributes a little bit of the face-to-face tension that may go on. So if there's too much excitement, just sprinkle a little kibble across the rocks. Pups come over and eat a little bit. The adults come over and eat a little bit, and that keeps them from having too much competition or getting too excited. Luna, we are in the process of obviously moving forward. We have the workshop coming up in a couple of weeks, the body work, trying to learn some postures or positions to try to be able to help make Luna physically feel better. We're moving forward with some x-rays to make a comparative analysis in the last 2 years. If there's been any degradation or any change in her femur, and obviously that hip alignment that's related to that misformed femur. But one of the benefits that Luna has is that now that she's by herself, a lot more wolf care can come in with her. And so we're seeing new people interacting. This is Shannon Barber, who is new to wolf care. She's been doing meds through the fence, and this is her second wolf that she's met through the fence, or adult wolf that she's met. Grizzly was the first one, and then Luna is now part of her social interaction. So we talk through how to handle animals with newcomers, to know what's comfortable and what's not, and handling techniques that help them interact with each individual wolf. And Shannon had the summer of helping with the pups, so the good thing is now that she's in wolf care, the pups know her quite well from bonding with them as pups, and that's going to make it all that much easier when she goes in with them with their adults. But at this point, it's got to be slow and kind of meticulous on how they meet the adults. And one of the key things that we always say is when you've got a wolf that you're positively reinforcing by scratching the belly every once in a
she's
while,
little too unstable.
stand up and stop,
No, you can't.
so that
See the
we know
difference?
that the wolf is still
So I don't want to
welcoming that
reward
kind
that
of
kind of
posture,
little
because
anxious or now
as a
she's
human
calm.
stands over them, they're dominant over them. So that's why you're seeing her stop and let Luna kind of reposition herself. And if Luna wants
Okay,
the
next one, just
contact,
take a step
she'll
back.
submissively paw up and try to engage
like,
more contact. If she doesn't want it, that gives her the freedom to pick up and move. And if she approaches, then you know that you can physically, again, engage. And so we always watch the
Yep,
wolves'
go
body
ahead.
postures, and we want to
There you
make
go.
sure we know that they're welcoming social contact. Just because a wolf is socialized doesn't mean it's always going to be grabbed or handled by people. We do it on their terms, and so we want to make sure that she feels comfortable, that she's allowed to approach, and she's allowed to engage or interact with whoever she wishes, whenever she wishes to engage. So that's a real key important thing to understand about wolf socialization. The other thing, as we said, we are allowing Tina some visits through the fence. So Luna has gotten very used to Tina being next to her. As a matter of fact, Tina's nose to nose at the fence. Whenever we're out in the yard, Tina is here. She's out with us, and she's either next to Luna, next to the pups, or next to Grizzer. So she kind of has to go 3 different places depending upon where we are. So she's a comforting, definitely companion through the fence, and we see very good reactions from Luna towards Tina, not seeing any aggressiveness, and that really, again, I always look at video and then I think back to old video. The first time we retired Mackenzie and Lakota in 2002, and this is the retirement enclosure. My dog Jake was there helping them get adjusted. So Tina is a little less rambunctious than my dog Jake, and so she interacts quite well. And she'll sit next to Grizzer's enclosure. Grizzer whines at her, tries to engage her. Definitely will go nose to nose as well. But always want to be careful for Tina to make sure that her hair doesn't go through, or they don't get an ear or a lip or something like that. But one thing we did notice on Friday's Wolf Care was that it was Thursday's Wolf Care, last Thursday, when Luna was lying on the other side, and you can see her in the kind of the silhouette in the back side there. Grizzer was whining towards Tina. When Grizzer started whining and focusing on Tina, Luna started doing a little bit of a threat growl. And so, not certain, again, watching what that is. There might be a little possessiveness over Tina with Grizzer, meaning that she's taken possession or ownership of Tina and doesn't want Grizzer to interact with her. We do see that. We see that that's why we're very cautious about the wolf pup spending any time with Grizzer, because we don't want the exhibit pack to think that the wolf pups belong to Grizzer. So that's not an uncommon behavior. It's just kind of the nature of the business, but it kind of speaks to that possessiveness that Luna has, and certainly that behavioral attitude that seems to be addressed. So there's a little bit of that focus. You can see she's watching, and she's watching, ears pricked forward. She's very, very, very alert. And so that has not gone away. We are working on that, trying to figure it out. It's gone away from the standpoint of she's not focused like this at all with the exhibit pack, but she is focused when Tina and Grizzer. That seems to be what's triggered the focus. So anyway, so we will keep you posted on her. We thought we'd share with you a little bit of information. Many people are surprised to hear that the International Wolf Center doesn't receive general support from the United Way. Currently, our wolf education work is outside of their focus area. However, people who participate in their workplace United Way campaigns can designate the International Wolf Center on their forms during the United Way campaign. You'll simply need to put our administrative office address on the form and our employee identification number. These are found easily by searching for United Way at our wolf.org website, or by clicking this link you see on your screen. Your designated gift will come directly to the International Wolf Center and will benefit wolves, and for that, we thank you. Have a good day. We'll see you next week.